The DNR tells us not to worry about the fertilizer factory slated to go into southeast Iowa. You remember the fiscal controversy around that, the fact that it's a $250 million. You heard me right, the B word, $250 million in taxpayer subsidies to support one company creating 165 jobs, one Egyptian company. Okay, so there's some problems with that. There are also problems with the way in which this decision to give that much money to one business were done in private. Governor Branstad and other insiders basically announced the deal was done without any public input, without any opportunity for media even to be a part of the process. So now there are other concerns. There are concerns about the environmental element of this. The plant is said by the DNR. The DNR concedes that this factory will emit various types of particulates, and that could be that's a mixture of various organic chemicals, including metals, soils, dust, and nitrogen oxide. The DNR goes on to say the contaminants will not further degrade the air quality in the area. Well, either the air quality is already bad, or the DNR is choosing to look the other way. A mother of a 2-year-old child in the area disagreed strongly. The meeting room in a public library in Burlington to discuss this recently was packed, overflow. They were way more people there than they expected, as there should be, because if they're going to build a fertilizer factory in your backyard, folks, I suspect you would be of interest. You would want to have a say in that. Okay, so she's concerned about her 2-year-old daughter's health growing up in the shadow of this factory. She says, "I'm not against jobs. I'm 110% for jobs," she said with tears in her eyes, according to the paper this morning. This is actually from I believe the Associated Press, but also in the Burlington Hawkeye. She says, "But I don't want my baby outside breathing that pollution in." End of quote. Who would? Joining me for the conversation today is Wally Taylor. Wally is an attorney from Cedar Rapids. He's also with the Sierra Club. He's on the phone with us today. Wally, welcome to the program. Hello, Wally.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. I'm here.
Good. Hey, so I assume you heard the initial conversation about the situation here.
Yes.
And what is just a brief background here? Your involvement on this particular issue is through on what angle?
The folks down there have asked me to help them out with some of the environmental issues and maybe even some of the financial issues. Any way we can try to stop the plant from being built.
So is that a realistic hope that this plant might not be built?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's always a rough road to hoe, but a couple of things. You mentioned the air permit. Actually, in many respects, the air permit, the draft permits were pretty good. They set limits lower than what Orascom and its consultants had put in the application.
Explain that a little bit better for us here. The air quality. Again, run it by us again.
Sure. The permits. There are actually 23 air permits because there are 23 different emission sources.
So they have a different permit for each emission source.
Right.
Why would there be 23 emission sources for one factory?
This is a fairly complicated plant, apparently. And like when I was looking at the air permit on the proposed coal electric generating plant in Marshalltown a few years ago, there were only like 2 or 3 emission sources.
So we're not talking, I mean, usually you expect to see a smokestack or two, but we're talking about 23 different smokestacks?
Or emission sources. It could be the haul roads. It could be...
it could be the what?
The roads that the trucks drive on.
Okay.
They call them haul roads.
Okay. Haul as in H-A-U-L.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Or it could be backup generators, things like that. So they aren't necessarily smokestacks per se, but they are emission sources.
So they need a separate air quality permit for each of those 23 polluting sources.
Right, because they're different processes, different pollutants.
And you're saying that the analysis that was it the DNR or the EPA or both?
Well, the DNR, because the EPA delegates to the states, the administration.
Except when the state abrogates its authority to protect the public from pollution, as the EPA has had to come in and do on several occasions.
Right.
But so the DNR looked at all 23 emission sources, based on what I presume Orascom, the company, is telling them is going to happen, based on the intended production of what, over 2,000 tons of anhydrous fertilizer every day, I believe.
Yeah. I've forgotten the exact number, but yeah, it's quite a bit.
Let's see, I have it here. It's 2,200 tons per day. So, and they concluded that there were no air quality concerns in any of those 23 emission sources. Do I have that right?
Well, yes. The DNR issues these draft permits with proposed limits of how much of each pollutant they're allowed to disperse. But I had some concerns about some of them because they didn't really do a very thorough job of looking at other plants. Their excuse was, well, this is the first fertilizer plant like this that's been built in the U.S. for 10 or 15 years. But there have been other boilers, there have been other CO2 regenerators, the various emission sources that they could have looked at that they didn't.
So the DNR is saying, no problem, these 23 emission sources are not going to cause an air quality problem, and you're disagreeing based on the lack of any real due diligence, it seems.
Right, and for some of the pollutants, especially the greenhouse gases, they didn't really set any specific limit except what they call emission factors.
Now, isn't that right there a reason to call in the EPA, because the EPA has agreed that greenhouse gases should be regulated?
Well, they're putting a limit on them, but my complaint was that they are just using emission factors, and they're only requiring Orascom to use what are called good production practices or something like that. I forget the exact term, but basically that they're just going to do a good job of processing the stuff, and that's going to be the best available control technology. But there's no indication in the application or anything else what those practices are going to be, how they're going to be carried out, what's the pollution limits actually are going to be from those best practices, alleged best practices. And that was my concern, that they really are just guessing, and they really have no basis for setting any kind of limits at this point.
Folks, if you're just joining us, Wally Taylor is my guest for the first couple segments of this program. We are talking about the Orascom fertilizer, Orascom. I keep want to say scam. Orascom. It could just as well be a scam the way this thing is coming together. The Orascom fertilizer factory in southeast Iowa, lending, $250 million in public subsidies, and now being criticized potentially for probable, I would say, air quality violations. If you want to join the conversation, 244-0077 here in central Iowa. Toll free, the number is 855-244-0077. And you can always email me at fallonforum@gmail.com. So the company is insisting, of course, that not only is it going to be, pollution free. I mean, I assume the company is agreeing with the DNR.
Well, that's a good question, because actually, like I said, many of these permit limits are lower than what Orascom wanted. So there are a couple of scenarios I could see playing out here. One is...
So what you're saying the DNR is...
being more restrictive, being more protective of the air than what Orascom originally wanted.
Okay.
So a couple of scenarios that could play out here is, one, Orascom could appeal those permit limits and ask that the EPC, the Environmental Protection Commission, grant different limits, or Orascom could try to get the upper levels of the DNR to finesse the permits differently.
Let me ask you this: I mean, who sets those guidelines? It's not entirely random, I believe. I believe the EPA has something to say about it, and maybe the DNR has some discretion within a certain range of limits. Well,
what they have to do is determine what's called best available control technology, and that's pretty complicated. Basically, they have to compare this plant with similar plants and see what kind of controls have been put on other plants and what kind of emission reductions they've obtained with those, and that's what has to be on this plant.
Okay.
And
yeah, okay, fairly complicated. I got you.
But now,
so basically, though, it sounds like the DNR, and again, in many cases, the DNR has been a lapdog of industry. In some cases, it's not their fault because they've been hamstrung by a state legislature that is emphatically in the back pocket of industry. So the DNR's track record, I think, has been mixed. But in this case, it sounds like perhaps did they perhaps throw Orascom a curveball and set limits of pollution limits that the company was not expecting, given the drooling, fawning attention it's received from Governor Branstad and others so far.
I think that may be the case.
Okay.
And the engineer who did these permits and set the limits is very good. I've worked with him before on other cases, and he's very good. But my concern...
Who is that?
His name is Chris Rolling.
Okay.
My concern is that the higher level in the DNR are going to overrule him.
Okay. Under political pressure.
Yeah. And in fact, I asked for additional time to make comments on behalf of the public because we only had 30 days with a very complicated case of the number of issues. We needed to try to hire an expert to look at it ourselves, where the DNR and the company and their consultants have had months to work through this. But Chuck Gipp, who's the DNR director, refused to give me any more time.
Right, and of course, just to be in the interest of full disclosure, since Chuck Gipp will probably not to tell you all these things, he a longtime state legislator. He was, and I served with him for all of my time up there. He got elected before I did, and he was there after I left. And he was the majority leader for a while, and had provided the impression of being very fair and balanced, and having some interest in the environment. I think partly because he's from Northeast Iowa, where there are a lot of environmental and recreational activities happening. But I found that every chance he had, he would shoot down anything that was good for the environment. I did not see him at all as a friend of the environment. And,
yeah.
and I had several personal encounters with him on stuff that I was working on that he went out of his way to try to derail initiatives. So him being put in charge of the the DNR, no surprise, because it's clear that Governor Branstad, who again is no friend of the environment, and has big backers and supporters who are in the other camp that don't want to see any meaningful regulation of air and water quality. Yeah, there's no doubt as to why Chuck Gipp has been put in that position. So I would not be surprised, Wally, as I think you would not be surprised either, if the higher-ups in the DNR come back and say, no, we're going to cut Orascom some slack and let them pollute more, not less.
Yeah, and then that brings the EPA into the picture, perhaps.
Okay, and so you're saying if the limits are too high, the EPA might say, hey, this is not acceptable.
Right.
Okay. What kind of time frame are we looking at for these things to happen?
Well, the tax-exempt bonds that are a critical piece of the financing.
And those are from the state, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're based on a federal law, the Midwest Disaster Area bonds, they're called, and they're based on
right.
The storms and floods and so on we had in the spring and summer of 2008.
Right.
And those bonds have to be issued by the end of this year.
Right. And isn't Orascom getting like the vast share of those bonds?
I don't know for sure, but they're getting a big share.
I thought that, I mean, you would think that there would be other businesses that were actually, I mean, Orascom was obviously not affected by the flood. They didn't exist in 2008 in Iowa.
Yeah,
but,
that's right.
You know, there are plenty of businesses that were affected, plenty of homeowners that were affected.
Yeah.
Maybe even some government buildings that were affected. Why are those bonds not being issued to those who were actually impacted by the floodwaters of 2008?
Well, here's the theory on this, that the bonds can be used to fund a company that is replacing a company that suffered damage because of the natural disasters.
That's an amazing twist of logic.
Yeah. But as far as we can tell, there was no business in Lee County that suffered as a result of the flooding or anything else that this company would be replacing.
Okay.
And apparently Governor Branstad has just used the high unemployment rate in Lee County as the basis for this, but to my mind, that does not fit that particular criterion for issuing these bonds.
Two more questions, Wally. The public meeting in Burlington, the one I referenced, it sounds like officials were not expecting a significant turnout, and what they got was a meeting room packed to the gills with people flowing out into the hallways.
Yes, I was there.
And expressing a lot of concern, a lot of anger in some cases. Can you just kind of briefly describe the sentiment in that meeting?
Well, actually, it was hard to know who outnumbered whom. There were a lot of supporters there with their Yes for Jobs stickers on, and the county development coordinator, county development coordinator, whatever his title is, was there. And let orchestrating the whole thing.
Yeah, and let me share with you a quote from our paper this morning on that. Ryan Drew, who's with Operating Engineers Local, and I'm a strong believer in the importance of organized labor, but sometimes labor gets really focused on the jobs issue to the exclusion of all other concerns, and I think this is a case in point. Drew says, quote, "We're here to support this project. They're giving local guys these jobs, and that's all the assurance we need," end of quote. In other words, people's health be damned, the environmental impact be damned, the water quality issue, who cares? I mean, that's all he needs is the fact that they're creating 165 jobs. And I know there'll be, a couple thousand jobs in construction during the building phase of this project, but Steve Dowell, who's with the Iron Workers, goes on to say, he said, "Plant opponents should be thinking about their children. These are jobs for the future." Again, talk about blinders. These parents are thinking about their children, not just not just in the future, but presently. When this plant's up and running in 2015, they may be breathing some pretty toxic mix. And so I'm guessing that, back to your take on the meeting, that most of the people supporting the plant there were probably from local labor unions that are only thinking about the jobs issue.
Yeah, or the usual suspects you see for economic development,
Chamber types.
Yeah.
Political friends of Terry Branstad's, maybe. Okay,
yeah.
So what about the other half of the crowd?
They were, the supporters really were very quiet, didn't say anything. The people who were concerned about the plant asked a lot of really good questions, and expressed their concerns.
What kind of questions?
What does this really mean about pollution? What a lot of them asked about water quality, which of course, frankly, wasn't the purpose of the meeting, but they were concerned about that, and they were asking about who's going to operate the plant, how's it going to be operated. When I brought up the question about using these best operating principles as the best available control technology with no knowledge of what those are going to be, that generated a few questions from people who had worked in industry and had worked in factories, and they wondered about this too.
Wally, I've got to go to a short break here. One more quick question. Regarding the financing of this, it's been largely it's been largely seen publicly as Governor Branstad's baby, something he's been pushing. But my impression is that there are Democrats that are equally culpable in sneaking this one by the voters, by the taxpayers. Would you say that's a fair characterization? And is for example, the Democratic Senate unlikely to take any action to try to hold bring some accountability to this?
I haven't got a good handle on the politics of this, other than Governor Branstad's vigorous support.
Okay, well, that's where I come in, I guess. Wally, are you able to stick around with us? I'd love to get your take as a leading environmental attorney on the article circulating across the country today, compliments of the Associated Press, titled in our local paper, "U.S. Catching Saudis as Top Oil Producer." If I've ever seen an article that could have been written entirely from a big oil press release, this was it. I'd love to get your take on this.
Sure.
You got a few minutes for that?
Yep.
Great. Folks, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation on a different topic with Wally Taylor. Later in the program, Jen Wilson, local writer, is going to join us. She's going to share some thoughts about her new book, Running Away to Home. Also, one of my favorite local musicians, Big Joe Kinzer's in the studio the second half of the show. I want to thank Physicians for Social Responsibility and the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club for helping to sponsor this broadcast. I also want to thank Brother Trucker for helping to kick off this segment of the show. And I want to thank Gateway Market for being the business sponsor for this segment of the show. And folks, if you have not shopped at Gateway Market, you should. I had a fantastic dinner last night of vegetables and eggs from my garden and chickens. And it was vastly improved by the addition of 2 different cheeses from Gateway Market, 2 of about 200 that they sell. And also, I love the fact that Gateway puts together a tremendous display of local food products, including picket fence maple ice cream. Oh, that was jaw-dropping stuff, folks. Y'all should have come over for dinner. Anyway, picket fence maple ice cream. You can get it along with a whole bunch of other great picket fence products at Gateway Market in the Sherman Hill neighborhood of downtown Des Moines. We'll be back in a few minutes.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage. Open Sesame is Des Moines' premier Lebanese cafe. This month, Open Sesame is offering an unbeatable lunch special on Monday and Tuesdays. Mention the Fallon Forum when you order anything on Open Sesame's delicious lunch menu and get the second item for half price. That's right, buy one, get one for half price. Open Sesame's pita wraps, salads, soup, and mouth-watering Mideastern specialties will have you and your dining partner coming back again and again. Open Sesame at 313 East Locust Street in Des Moines' historic East Village.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Okay. I'm coming. Hey, welcome back to the program, folks. Thanks so much for sticking with us. That's Mr. Baber's Neighbors, again, one of the great local bands that are generous enough to share their talent with this program. I want to remind folks, too, that if you believe in the alternative to right-wing radio, which is pretty much all you got anymore on the dial, then please do your part to help support this program. Myself here, and then, of course, Bradshaw at 1:30. We do it on a shoestring. We do it with the help of people who believe in what we're doing. You can become a friend of the Fallon Forum for $30 a month, or if you can't afford $30 a month, you can do something else. But I like $30 a month because it pays for a program. It pays if you do $30 a month for a year, that's the cost of one program. So do that. You can go to my website where it says the button that says support. Also on my website, compliments of Tinker Heating and Cooling, we're giving away, this is a new thing, we're giving away the Fallon Forum freebie online, and the first person to find and click on the Fallon Forum freebie this week will win an $85 a furnace check valued at $85. That's what I'm talking about. The furnace check, of course, is pretty good idea. We've had some nice weather, but when you start cranking up your furnace, you want to make sure it's not putting toxics into your home. Or then you would be no better off than just living next to a fertilizer factory. So go to my website, find the Fallon Forum freebie. First person to click on that wins a free heating check with furnace check rather with Tinker Heating and Cooling. This segment of the show is sponsored by Reynolds Energy Solutions. Since we're talking about furnaces and heat, and I'll tell you a little bit about more about that later. But I want to go to our conversation with Wally Taylor. We were talking about the fertilizer plant, but there's other stuff to talk about on the issue of energy and the environment today. U.S. oil output is surging so fast, according to an Associated Press story, that the U.S. could soon overtake Saudi Arabia as the world's biggest producer. Okay? So what's that mean? Well, if you read the story that's in the AP and circulating across the country today, I've never seen anything that didn't read more like a big oil press release. It is so solidly just towing the line of what big oil wants us to hear. I mean, again, no talk about climate change, no talk about reaching peak oil. Wally, you still with us?
I'm here.
Great. Let me get your take on this before I vent any further, because I'm pretty, I need a good strong cup of tea in the morning to wake up. This morning, I probably could have done without it because this article was fueling me. Anyway, what do you think about it?
I was frankly surprised. I know we've been increasing oil production, but I didn't think it was that much. They've opened up new oil fields in North Dakota, and they've been granting more offshore oil leases, and even some oil leases on public lands. But I was surprised to find, if it is true, that we've outpaced Saudi Arabia.
Well, not quite. Right now, they're at 11.6 million barrels per day, and we are at 11.4 million. So, and actually, no, we are forecast to be at 11.4 million. Right now, we're at 10.9 million barrels per day. So we're closing in on the Saudis. And, I'm thinking, okay, why is that a good thing? Again, this is under the Obama administration. And it's just remarkable to me that you've got, oil executives, people who've enriched themselves through oil, like the Koch brothers, who are, all behind Romney. And again, I'm supporting President Obama, but I look at this and I think, wow, this happened under the Democratic president's administration, a guy who, was very outspoken about the importance of addressing climate change. What's going on here?
Yeah, and although to give Obama some credit, he has pushed and gotten passed through Congress the higher mileage.
Yes, the fuel efficiency standards.
Yeah,
yes.
Fuel efficiency standards. And although he did stop, at least temporarily, the Keystone Pipeline, I would suspect that after the election he will somehow find a way to approve it.
He's even said during this campaign that he's for pipelines.
Yeah.
Yes.
The problem with that, though, is that oil is sold on the world market. We don't know if we're going to get any of that oil or not. Mm-hmm. It may go to China or Brazil or wherever.
Right. So basically, this is a way not to shore up the domestic oil supply, but to assure that oil companies, including Dutch Royal Shell, will be getting fatter bonuses and better return on their on the taxpayers' money we're investing in their drilling. And I mean, it's so horrible on so many levels that I can't understand. I mean, I guess it's it shouldn't surprise anybody. I don't even know. Do you happen to know who owns the Associated Press?
No, I have no idea.
I don't, but I know who owns the Des Moines Register. And again, I like the Des Moines Register on some fronts. Usually on the editorial page. I know there are some old-time reporters here that do a good job at digging up stories and talking about some of the issues that we wouldn't hear about otherwise. But I see articles like this, and I'm thinking, I mean, this is not even there's not even a line in there from anybody saying fracking is bad. I mean, they're crediting fracking as the reason why, or one of the big reasons why oil drilling, more oil is being produced here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, too, it's also because of what's happening off our shores. But, you know, fracking is a big fracking deal, and it's not a good deal.
No.
There's a lot of concerns about it. To have something as glowing as that, to have no reference to climate change, to have no conversation at all about peak oil. I mean, you know, it wasn't that many years ago we heard that, you know, we're going to be getting close real soon to maxing out what we can extract from this planet oil-wise. Where are we at with that now? I mean, there's no reference to it here.
I haven't heard about it for quite a while, but the idea of peak oil was that there's more oil. It's just getting harder and harder and harder to get all the time. And at some point, it's going to be more expensive and harder to get than it's worth.
Well, and we're already there.
Yeah.
The tar sands in Canada, again, where they want to extract the oil that would be shipped through the Keystone Pipeline, that's no piece of cake to get out of the ground.
No, and it's not even oil; it's tar. So they have to do all kinds of refining and processing to even get it to be oil.
So how do they afford that? I'm presuming, I don't know this, but I'm presuming the Canadian government is landing some pretty nice subsidies on the company that's doing that extraction and processing.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard one way or the other on that.
Yeah. And so coming around to fracking, again, it's on the rise in mountain states, and I think, I don't know for sure whether that's what's happening in North Dakota and other places. Maybe that's,
it is, yes.
That's fracking there as well.
For oil, yeah.
And there's a huge amount of opposition to it with regards to natural gas production in upper state New York.
Yeah.
So
there's also a local angle on that, Ed.
Yes?
Up in northeast Iowa, they are mining the silicon sand that they use in the fracking, and they're just taking tons and tons and tons out of the bluffs up in northeast Iowa along the Mississippi River.
Really?
For this sand, yes.
I did not know that. Now, who's doing that?
Various companies that then contract with Halliburton or whoever is doing the drilling, and the sand has to be just a really fine, evenly sized sand that isn't available everywhere, but unfortunately we have it in northeast Iowa.
Right, and so that's good. That's being pumped with this mix of water and chemicals into the ground to push the oil or natural gas in some cases up to the surface.
Well, it fractures the bedrock, and then that brings it to the surface.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't know where to go with this. I mean, it looks to me, this looks like a really good article for an articulate and well-informed attorney from Eastern Iowa to respond to with its own letter to with an opinion piece. Just making that suggestion there. Maybe I should respond as well, right, Wally?
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, and you know, it goes on. The U.S. The article says the U.S. will still need to import lots of oil in the years ahead. Okay, we're just an assumption. I mean, that's just a given. All right, they say we're gonna have to do that. Not even challenged, because Americans use 18.7 million barrels per day. But thanks to the growth in domestic production and the improving fuel efficiency of the nation's cars and trucks, imports could fall by half by the end of the decade. It's all just straight out of an oil industry press release, and I'm embarrassed for the Associated Press, which I have again in the past regarded as a reliable source of news.
Yeah, but you know the problem is that people just care about the price of gas. They don't care what the other consequences are. We need to somehow get people beyond just looking at the price of gasoline at the pump and looking at the other consequences. You would think after the BP oil spill that offshore oil drilling would really be suspect, but it just seems to be going full force.
Well, there's been a total whitewash in the media about that option, that tragedy. You know, the article also says businesses that serve the oil industry, such as steel companies that supply drilling pipe and railroads that transport oil, aren't the only ones benefiting. Again, it's like there's no downside to this.
Yeah.
Home builders, auto dealers, and retailers in energy-producing states are also getting a lift. Again, back to the earlier conversation we had about the fertilizer factory. And by the way, Wally, I will never call a factory a plant. A plant to me is a good thing. A factory can be a good thing, but it's never as warm and fuzzy or as tasty as a plant. Anyway, my own bias. So the article says that oil and gas drilling in the U.S. will lead to the creation of 1.3 million jobs across the U.S. economy by the end of the decade. Again, this is the same argument we hear by folks in the labor community down in southeast Iowa as to why the fertilizer factories should be supported. It comes back to jobs. Well, how many jobs would be created in wind, in solar, in geothermal, in biofuels if we invested the same amount of energy, attention, research, development? I bet it'd be a lot more than 1.3 million.
And who verifies how many jobs are going to be created by the oil industry? I mean, I hear all the time that a company or a developer will come into some locality, some city or whatever, and say, "Oh, the project's going to create X amount of jobs." Mm-hmm. They have absolutely no documentation. They have absolutely no verification of that. They just come in and say this, and the local the power elite gobbles it up and never questions it.
Yeah. Well, Wally, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know you're a busy man. You're fighting a lot of good fights on several levels and traveling. I think most of your work keeps you in eastern Iowa, but you are certainly one of Iowa's leading environmental attorneys, and your work is greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, Wally Taylor, folks. He's out of Cedar Rapids, and you can contact him. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Wally?
My email is wtaylorlaw@aol.com.
wtaylorlaw@aol.com. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
On the subject of energy, folks, you ought to get an energy audit because one way to beat the oil companies is to use less of their product. So get an energy audit done because I'm pretty confident that if your place is at all like most places, and certainly like mine, you can find lots of places to save energy. Do your part to reduce your carbon footprint, and at the same time, you will save a bunch of money. And what will this audit cost you? It costs you absolutely nothing. Tim will do this audit. He'll tell you where you can save money, where you can save fuel, and again, you'll also help support this program because Tim is a big backer of the Fallon Forum, and we appreciate his support. You can call him at 802-2801, 802-2801. We'll be back in a few minutes. Big Joe Kintz is going to join me, and we'll also hear from Jen Wilson about her new book, Running Away to Home. And I got to share a blurb about the latest Republican congressional candidate. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this guy. So we'll talk about that briefly, too, in the third segment of this program.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey folks, it's Ed Fallon. I want to tell you about saving energy and saving money. Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions will give you a comprehensive energy audit that will cost you nothing. And Tim will identify the many ways in which you can reduce energy use while saving money. Now, I had Tim over for an audit last month, and I was amazed, I tell you, at how much energy was going through the roof, out the windows, the back door. You get it. So before the cold winds of winter really blow hard, give Tim a call at 802-2801. That's 802-2801.
Host is a locally owned restaurant in downtown Des Moines that focuses its food and philosophy on embracing simplicity. The majority of Host's food is from local farmers who practice sustainable and health-conscious agriculture. Much of what you'll find on your plate is a familiar comfort food, presented with a modern and tasty interpretation. Host is open for lunch Monday through Friday from 11 to 2, and also available for private dinner events and special themed dinners throughout the month. So, check out Host at 13th and Locust in Des Moines.
With warm weather finally here, it's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruitcake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Fun with music. That's Pump Down bringing us back. I want to thank Proof Restaurant for sponsoring this segment of the program. I want to thank all of our sponsors. And I want to thank Joe Kinzer for joining us in a bit. But first, we're going to go to our phone and welcome Jen Wilson to the program. Hello, Jen.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. Now, tell folks, maybe you don't know Jen Wilson, but you should. I'm guessing a lot of my audience does. Jen is a writer, a Des Moines resident, well-traveled, wrote a book called Eden, which was very well received, and your latest book is Running Away to Home.
That's right. And actually, the book is Running Away to Home, and we're going to be partying at Eden. So that's how that one works.
Ah. Okay. So tell us about the book.
Well, Running Away to Home is about the time when the recession was starting to hit. My husband, Jim, and we live here in Sherman Hill. And we sold all of our stuff, and we went back to the ancient Croatian mountain village where my great-grandparents came from to start fresh.
Wow. How long did you last?
Well, we had enough money to stay overseas for about 9 months. We kind of just traveled till the money ran out. We stayed in the village itself for 4 months. They have it's right in the mountains there. They have a pretty tough winter. Mm-hmm. So we didn't want to kind of get trapped there during the winter time. My daughter has asthma, and we wanted to be able to get in and out. They didn't have a doctor there. So we were out by winter, and we stayed all through the summer and fall, and just as the snow was beginning to fall, we took off, and we spent the winter on the seacoast about an hour away, where I wrote the first draft of Running Away to Home.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm running into more and more people here in Central Iowa with Croatian connections or experiences, including a couple of friends of mine who spent a wonderful vacation there recently.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's a hot spot. I mean, it honestly is the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. Yeah. I can't believe Americans don't vacation there. It's definitely where Europe vacations. It's gorgeous. And
part of the beauty of your book, if I understand it correctly, is the reflection on the importance of a connection to the past.
That's right.
Yeah, and I have that own experience myself. I mean, you mentioned your great-grandparents' village. You know, my great-grandfather still. I mean, we still have his farm in our family back in Ireland.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I've been there, I think, 21 times.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So I've done my own running away to home.
Right.
And of course, in Ireland, they when you come visit relatives in Ireland, they say welcome home. They always consider that home, and they want us to feel welcome and consider it our home as well. So, I think it's there's a real value, especially in a country. I mean, I think the American experience is unique in terms of how we've blended so many different peoples and cultures and traditions. But I think in part because of that kind of mixing bowl effect, we value even more that connection to somewhere we had in the past. And so I'm looking forward to looking at your book.
Yeah, I think one of the things about sort of remaking those connections, Obama at the time that all this was happening, he was a candidate for president at that time as well, and he was kind of telling everyone we were going to have to go back to our nation of immigrants' values. And it just sort of struck me, my generation doesn't really even know what that means anymore.
Right.
And we wanted to kind of go back and retrieve some of that stuff. And, I do feel like we forget often that we are a nation of immigrants, that we're people who struggle. We descended from people, and some of us are directly people who have struggled to come to this country. And, I really feel like it's our responsibility to add as much to our communities and to the country as we can by welcoming other people who are coming here, by sort of maintaining the best of the traditions that we came from.
Yes. All right. Hey, so if folks want to get a copy of your book, meet you in person, and participate in an event that will be a good social event as well, what's the plan for that?
Yeah, well, this is sort of the final blowout party for Running Away to Home. It's the first Friday in November, November 2nd, from 5 to 8 at Eden in the East Village. There's going to be lots of Croatian food and snacks. There'll be some olive oil tasting from Allspice. We'll have cheese from the cheese shop in Des Moines, sausage from Gateway Market, and I might just have a little nip of the village hooch to share with people who come down and get their book signed.
Okay, and I have my own experience with village hooch in either Croatia or Slovenia. I'm not sure where because it was all part of Yugoslavia back then, but I visited a monastery where they made a fine peach liqueur.
Yeah, yeah.
So hey,
it's good stuff. I'll probably have slivovica, which is made of plums. It's good stuff.
Cool. Jen, I look forward to the event. Jen Wilson, folks, author of Running Away to Home. Big event this week from Friday on November 2nd, 5 to 8 p.m. at Eden in the East Village. Good luck, Jen.
Thanks for the opportunity. I'll see everybody down there.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Folks, we're going to go to a quick break here because I want to give the entire last segment to Joe Kinser. Joe's a local musician. Has his thoughts on some of the issues we like to discuss on the show, and has also brought his guitar with him. So we're going to hear a little bit of his talent today on our program. And I've got to share, Murdoch, not Rupert, but the guy running for the U.S. Senate, basically saying that it's God's plan if a woman gets raped and that rape leads to a pregnancy. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation about that when we come back on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hi, folks. It's Ed Fallon here. Proof Restaurant at 13th and Locust. You've probably been there for their award-winning, nationally recognized lunch specials. Well, now Proof is open Thursdays and Fridays for supper. And here's where the chefs really get creative. Let me tell you, they're like artists, okay? I've been there, and it is one of the best meals I have had in Des Moines. I've heard that from other people. You got to check it out. Proof for supper, Thursdays and Fridays, and also the second Saturday of the month. Do not assume you can get in. Make reservations. Contact Proof Restaurant online at proofrestaurant.com or 244-0655. That's 244-0655. Hi, folks. Ed Fallon here. When it is time to entertain, think of Gateway Market. Let them handle the details. Gateway offers a wide variety of stress-free options like cut-to-order cheese and charcuterie. There's a delicious olive bar and a wide variety of chef-prepared dips and spreads. Or let the catering team take care of the entire event, right down to the wine and beer pairings. The expert floral designers can even customize the perfect centerpieces. So stop by or visit Gateway Market for more information. Gateway is at Woodland and ML King in downtown Des Moines. Good food, great entertaining.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
I love driving to Newton to see the races.
Me too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, hey, this segment of the show and the last one brought to you by Proof Restaurant. Zach Mannheimer at Proof has a tremendous knack for sending out hilarious emails, and if we can get the pics up on the screen here, I'll share this recent one with you. This is proof. And again, folks, they're open now for dinner Wednesday through Saturday. And I really would appreciate you going there for dinner on Wednesday. It is a dining experience that's unique and exceptional. And if we can get more traffic there on Wednesday and Thursday, they'll probably expand to every night of the week. But dinner proof. Zach writes, no one dies picking grapes. It's just not a thing. People die by walking into phone booths more than they do picking grapes. But then came Mencia. Yeah, those are grapes growing on the side of a hill in a region of northwestern Spain. Okay, there's Spain. There's northwestern Spain. There's where they grow the Mencia grapes. Why do they call it the death grape? Okay, because that's where it grows, the sides of cliffs. And often the only way to pick these berries, these grapes, is to use a grappling hook, okay? Like this guy here, using a grappling hook. There's Batman picking grapes. And sometimes, well, that's not true, but people do fall from grappling hooks while picking Mencia grapes, and there are only 2 known cases, of course, of death due to Mencia picking. But seriously, even if a very small people die picking grapes, I guess that's enough justification to call it, quote, the death grape, okay? So keep calm. All right. So anyway, you take Pinot Noir, mix it with Cabernet Franc, and you've got Mencia. So, hey, when you go there for dinner on Wednesday, extremely versatile. Maybe not as versatile as this, but personally, I'd probably go with a glass of Mencia over having to fuel one of those babies. So, hey, folks, do check out Proof Restaurant for dinner. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I recommend a glass of Mencia with it. Anyway, thank you, Proof, for helping to sponsor this program, and thank you, listeners, for helping to sponsor helping to support the people who do sponsor this show. All right, back to our conversation. Joe Kinser's in the studio with me, but I'm dying to get your opinion on this, Joe. Indiana Republican Senate candidate Richard Murdoch says that when a woman is impregnated during a rape, quote, it's something God intended. Okay, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. God supports rape? Is that what you're saying, dude? God thinks it's okay that this woman is raped? It was his will? It gets worse. Murdoch was asked during the final minutes of a debate this week, should abortion be allowed in cases of rape or incest? He said, I think even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that's something God intended to happen. God actually says not only that the rape was, Murdoch says that God intended the rape and the pregnancy. I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around this. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I think the Republicans have a great philosophy here of attacking women this time. I think it's really going to work out for them. I don't know what else to say. It's like that and the guy in Missouri.
Yeah, how many of these people can continue to say these ridiculous things? It's not like Mitt Romney's giving us plenty to talk about. Again, and I'm very critical of Obama, but gosh, is there any choice? You got Romney basically changing his entire foreign affairs platform in a debate early this week. Now you have this crazy coming out.
Although he basically was saying he agreed with Obama, so hey.
Well, yeah, but that's despite having disagreed with him, vocally for a long time. So, Joe, you're a local musician. You play. I see you everywhere. I see you in bathrooms. I see you on street corners, on the tops of high buildings. Those
are the places to be.
Well, actually, no, I've never seen you play in a bathroom. At least not the guitar. So anyway, what are you doing? What are you going to do for us today?
I'm going to sing a song that I think is the perfect country and western song. It's called "She Only Loves Me When She's Drunk."
All right, let's hear it.
She only loves me when she's drunk. When she's drunk, I'm a barroom hunk. When she's sober, I'm a no-good skunk. She only loves me when she's drunk. When she is drunk, her eyes light up when I walk into a place. She throws her arms around my neck and breathes liquor in my face. She's about the sweetest gal in the whole white human race. Lord, she loves me when she's drunk. The very next day when I wake up, I call her on the phone. She asks again just who I am and would I leave her alone. When I hang up, I'm as blue as a dog without a bone. Lord, I wish that she were drunk, 'cause she only loves me when she's drunk. When she's drunk, I'm a barroom hunk. When she's sober, I'm a no-good skunk. She only loves me when she's drunk. One of these days, when she is drunk, I'll take her down the aisle. Go down to the Elvis Church and do it Vegas style. We'll be the happiest man and wife for a country mile, just as long as we stay drunk. 'Cause she only loves me when she's drunk. When she's drunk, I'm a barroom hunk. When she's sober, I'm a no-good skunk. She only loves me when she's drunk. She only loves me when she's drunk.
Joe Kinser, man. That has got to be the most politically incorrect tune ever sung in this studio.
I'll take that.
And that's an original. You wrote that.
I wrote that.
Am I allowed to ask why? What happened to you, Joe? How bad was it? Who is this woman?
You know, she's a conglomerate of every woman I've ever known.
Oh my gosh, it's even worse than I thought.
You know, I never question the muse. When things hit, you write it down, you play it, you record it, and you have a song.
How long ago did you write that?
I think I wrote it in about 2006.
Yeah?
So it's been a while.
That's when I was running for governor.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't one of my campaign volunteers, was it?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. There's a video on YouTube of me playing this in front of about 150 other songwriters out in Colorado.
Okay.
If you search for Big Joe Kinser, you'll see it. I got a great. I'm wearing a flannel shirt and cut off jean shorts, and look really good in it, you know. And
well, as long as you think you look really good, that's what counts. You know?
That's what counts. Yeah, that's right.
You look really good with a studio headset on too. Those cans are really doing you well.
Thanks. Yeah. And I wore the black shirt, which is thinning, you know, and the jumbo body guitar, which is thinning. Also, my hair is thinning.
Yeah,
so.
well, and that's why I wear this. I mean, I've been told that the glare from this forehead is too much for the camera, and we got to tone it down. Look at that. I mean, look at that. It's like it's like the Capitol Dome itself, only the Capitol Dome is a little bit more pricey. But you know, I put this on and suddenly, you can relax.
I don't know, Ed. I think you should go with that.
You think the glow?
The whole Capitol Dome thing, man.
I think they should put an Irish cap on the Capitol Dome. Is my opinion. All right.
That's more like
a big one. I mean, a big one. So anyway, yeah. I mean, just another question about. It's called "She Only Loves Me When I'm Drunk."
When she's drunk.
Oh, she only loves me when she's drunk.
Yeah,
right, okay.
It's a pretty important distinction, I must say.
It is a very important distinction. But have you ever gotten flack for that tune?
No, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very politically incorrect in many levels.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And you've never gotten any flack for it?
No.
So you're just not paying attention or what?
That could be. Mostly people like it. The people that like it come up and say something, and I suppose the people that don't like it don't say anything.
Maybe.
But yeah. But you know, down deep, there's another message in there.
And what is that?
Oh, I don't know. I just wrote the song. I don't know what the message is.
Oh, okay. Kind of like Don McLean with American Pie.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So what? You make your living doing music, or?
Oh no.
That was a silly question, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's getting harder and harder, as you know, for musicians to make living. Even the ones that are national and stuff. And I'm sure that's for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. More and more musicians, when they're not performing in the evening, during the daytime, they're out collecting bottles and cans.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you, I thought I saw you collecting some bottles and cans the other day. But
oh, those were my own.
Those are okay. Yeah. So, where are you performing this coming week or two?
Okay. Well, November 1st, I'll be at the Fallon Defense Fund function.
Yeah, the shindig. We're calling it a shindig. Yes, this is the Fallon Legal Defense shindig. It won't be just Joe. We've got some other musicians who are. I hope I know John Price is going to be there. We're trying to get a few more lined up. It's going to be a heck of a good time. We've got Sid's Catering is going to provide food. Again, lots of music. There are lots of things being auctioned off at this event too. Joe, you're going to want to bid on some of this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, there's a generous supply of beer that we're working on.
Okay.
Okay. There is $100 worth of pet waste removal.
Okay, I'm still on the beer.
Okay, pet waste removal. I mean, $100 worth of pet waste removal.
That's awesome.
What I don't know is whether that applies to chickens or just cats and dogs. That's what I'm hoping. We got some chicken possibilities there too.
There you go, yeah.
And you're going to be playing probably earlier on. Yeah, it's going to be at 1041 8th Street. That's the historic fire station from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on November 1st. And this is to raise money for my defense fund. I mean, you know that church mouse? You and I both.
Yep.
We're probably about as wealthy as the proverbial church mouse. So when Leonard Boswell decides to sue me, and it cost me $5,000, obviously I don't have a pocket I can dig into to pull that out. So I'm counting on folks to step up to the plate and help me out. Hopefully it gives me a chance not just to defend myself and stay out of the big house, but also a chance to point out corruption and ethics and government accountability. So anyway, yeah, come if you can, November 1st. Thursday, November 1st at the historic fire station on 8th Street. Big Joe will be there.
Yes.
And that may be one of the tunes you play.
That will, and there will be other people, so if you are offended by that song, come down anyway.
Yeah, and if you are offended by that song, I'm going to try to have a supply of rotten vegetables on hand that you can throw at Joe. Just don't get him on his guitar.
That's right.
And aim for his head.
Yep. Hit the face, don't hit the guitar.
Yeah. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. And if folks want to get in touch with Joe, where do they go?
They go to reverbnation.com/BigJoeKinsler.
And Joe, of course, like most musicians who try to do what they can to make a living, got a couple of really good CDs.
Available on CD Baby.
All right.
The lively one is.
Cool. All right. Joe, thanks again for joining us. Folks, stay tuned for Bradshaw. Bradshaw, of course, with you shortly here, and he's actually told me what he's talking about today. Why hasn't someone sent in all GOP email banning use or discussion of the word rape? You think that might come down from above. Just don't even talk about it. The whole off-the-record conversation between the president and Register and Donald Trump, Bradshaw's going to talk about that as well. So, I've heard about that, but I haven't had a chance to figure out what exactly is going on that front either. So, anyway, thank you, folks, for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, 12 noon on the Fallon Forum. Thank you, Webcast One Live, for making the show possible. And thanks to Dan Fry with a Rebels Cause for filling in as my producer today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.